Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever you're watching this video. I'm a little late to Mindfulness Mondays today. I just got back from the Accessible Yoga Conference in Santa Barbara, and I took the red eye home, and I live on the East Coast from the West Coast, and I always seem to think that I'm going to be able to sleep on the plane, but it never happens, yet I never learn. Any opportunity to take the red eye, I always jump on it, and then I always regret it the next day. So I'm just kind of waking up, shaking awake this morning. And what I wanted to talk about on my Mindfulness Monday is community. I learned some important lessons this weekend. The Accessible Yoga Conference is the best yoga conference I've ever been to. I've gone to several other conferences and always kind of felt like I was on the outskirts of the conference. It was always a bunch of really thin, Lulu-clad yogis with expensive coffee talking about complicated poses whenever I walked around these conferences, and I always felt like out of place, right? Sorry, I'm in my backyard. Big motorcycle going by, and I always really felt out of place, like this wasn't my community, and I'd always feel like body shamed by, people's reactions to my body when I came to the mat. And what I loved about the Accessible Yoga Conference is that everybody comes exactly as they are, and there's no pretense, and people are lovely, and it's a wonderful community. So I ran into a little snafu yesterday where I didn't have a ride to the airport. And Santa Barbara is about 2 hours from LAX, and I was really concerned that I wasn't going to find a ride home. I kind of got left in the lurch. So I reached out to my community, and I was so blessed because two people who were at the conference were actually on my flight on the red eye home. And it was very important to reach out to community. So what I'm talking about today is community. I'm a big proponent for social justice work, and I use my yoga practice as a tool or a vehicle to fight discrimination and bias and racism. What I have learned from my yoga practice is that I was seeing the world through a really clouded lens, and I was beginning to believe some of the stereotypes that I've heard about myself and about others from my culture, and I had internalized those stereotypes. And it was only after reaching out to my community and creating a community here at Diane Bondi Yoga and at my other platforms like Yoga Steya and Yoga for All that I learned that there's a really incredible community out there who shares a similar experience, and when we storytell and we share those experiences, we become more empowered. So I had an exercise yesterday at the yoga conference where it was just a listening exercise, and I had the opportunity to sit with a friend of mine that I don't get to see very often because she lives out in Pasadena, and we shared experiences about who we are and what brought us to yoga. And it was really interesting to me because our stories were so similar, and she is such a great social justice person and ally, and she speaks so eloquently, and it was great to get to really meet her and listen to her stories. So what I want to talk about today is finding your community. It's really great if you have a platform and a voice, and you can maybe stand on a corner or stand somewhere or even stand on the internet and talk about the things that are important to you and, use your power to create change. But it's so much more effective and so much more far-reaching and powerful if you can do that within a community. So if you've ever been curious about how can I become more, body aware or body positive, or how can I become more aware of the issues of injustice and racism in our culture, join a group, find a community that does this work and join them. I'm very, very blessed. My communities are the Yoga and Body Image Coalition. My communities are the Accessible Yoga Conference, and I'm so blessed. And I just found a brand new community with a friend of mine, Anne Marie, who's doing an online platform called Yoga Mate, which I'm going to join this week, and that's another community that we can be a part of and lift each other up. So I want you to think about that. Okay, so the question for the week is, how do you connect with community? How do you step out of maybe your fear and step into another community and become part of that community? How do you change the world with your yoga? Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next week. Namaste.